Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Dr. Andrew Scatt. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll talk about last week's NFL action, week 5. We'll talk a little bit more about our ongoing betting competition, which is hopefully improving a bit. We'll look at next week's NFL preview for week 6, which was the Chiefs bye week, so maybe not quite as interesting for us as Kansas City fans anyway. We'll also be talking about playoff baseball today a lot too, which is nice for an odd year for us, I guess. But we'll start today with last night for us right now, Monday night. Maybe one of the best days in Kansas City sports history, where we had the Kansas City Royals playing playoff baseball against the New York Yankees, and also had the Chiefs playing on Monday night simultaneously. Mike, do you think this was the best day possibly for Kansas City sports to have both of those games being happening simultaneously is the only game on for either sport at the same time? What do you think about that? Just as it's in general, did you enjoy having that
I
be something that happened anyway?
It
What do
was
you?
nice that it happened. I would have liked to have each game individually, so I could watch them both on their own. I think maybe there had been times when the Royals and Chiefs played the same day in the playoffs, maybe in 14 and 15. I
Yeah,
think there were some playoff games on a Sunday or something like that where the Chiefs and Royals each played. But this one was unique because it was, like you said, it was they were the only game in town on either sport. It was a night baseball game at Yankee Stadium, night football game at Arrowhead, two of the more storied locations in those sports. And maybe the best part was that the Kansas City teams won each of the games. So they won the game two to even the ALDS. They won that game 4-2, doubling up the Yankees, and the Chiefs doubled up the New Orleans Saints, winning 26-13. In probably you could say each of those games, you think maybe the Royals could have won by more, and the Chiefs could have probably won by more as well. So it was, although I think maybe the Royals game was pretty close most of the way through. I think that was more. It seemed to be more of a nail biter than
yeah,
because I think just because we kind of assume the Yankees are a better team than the Royals, but the Chiefs are a better team than the Saints. So even a close game, probably we think the Royals are the underdogs in the ALDS by a little bit, but they've shown that they can play with the Yankees. They almost beat the Yankees in game one, and maybe a call here or there, or a kind of better decision here or there. They would have beaten the Yankees, but they lost the first game 7-6, and then they won the second game uh, 4-2. Now they're going back to Kansas City for Wednesday night's third game, where they'll have Seth Lugo on the mound. So you ought to like
who,
the
who
chances.
pitched great in the Baltimore series? So
And I think the last time he played the
yeah,
Yankees, there were seven. He had 7 shutout innings against the Yankees. So
yeah.
that's a good sign. And I think maybe one of the interesting. This is also maybe true about the Chiefs in a way, although Mahomes played better last night. But the Royals are 1-1 against the Yankees with their best player Bobby Witt not really hitting at that well. I think he's 0 for 8 or 0 for 10 even in the
Yeah,
series
somewhere there.
so
Yeah,
far. He had a few nicely hit balls in game one, but in game two he was just um, he looked overmatched and just not chasing bad pitches out of the strike zone, striking out multiple times. I think he struck out 4 times in this series. I think 3 times in game two. So
well,
um,
one of those strikeouts was to essentially end the game in game 1.
yeah,
So on a called strike that was maybe low on a 3-2 pitch.
borderline low. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I think it was low on this broadcast, maybe an inch or two low. But I think that's maybe has affected him in game two because he was chasing so many things low in game two.
yeah,
But
yeah. Maybe he doesn't want to have that happen again, and now he may be going a little bit farther outside the zone than he wants to.
hopefully the change of scenery will help Bobby play a bit better um, in Kansas City. Of course, maybe the Royals are also benefiting from Aaron Judge not playing particularly well either the first two games. He had a nice catch on a Bobby Witt line drive in game one. I think he had an infield hit in game two, but that's been about it that Judge has done. He's, I think, 1 for 9 or something like that in the series. So he hasn't done much better. So you have to probably assume that he will play better going forward, and you hope that Witt does the same. So maybe the Royals can still kind of keep their um, competitiveness with the Yankees going forward.
And it certainly helps that they've already gotten by one of the games with probably the weakest starter in the Royals rotation, then, which you probably would have assumed it was would have been a loss right away because you get the Yankees number one starter against the Royals number three, four, five, somewhere in that area, depending on the time
Yeah,
of the year. And the Royals nearly pulled that game one off, yeah, despite even though, like you mentioned, a bunch of mistakes on here and
and
there from
and in
from the Royals too.
the bullpen pitched terribly. They walked so many batters. They walked in 2 runs with the bases loaded. So
Yeah.
it
But those
wasn't
are those
walk.
are relievers that should not have been in the game in that scenario or that in that inning, though. They Royals have it was one of those things that I've been griping about on here for most of the year about how they've been using their bullpen, but they have extra bullpen arms now because they only need three starters for this series
Yeah.
with as many off days as there are scheduled in here. That they actually only need three starters, so two of their normal starters are now in the bullpen, and they probably should have gone to one of them right there because it was at the beginning of an inning, or it
Yeah,
should have been coming in at the beginning of the inning, but instead they had
one
uh
batter. Yeah.
yeah, and they had the starter face one batter who he walked, and then it led to another series of walks. But they brought it in with a fresh inning with like Lynch or Bubic. I don't know that you would have seen the same outcome. I would have been at least giving them a fresh inning.
Yeah.
You'd
Or
think
with
that they would have they could make one mistake or two mistakes and then work their way through it, as starters tend to do. But
yeah.
that's not how they handle the bullpen this year, and they continue to do that in the playoffs, and they have not learned from any of that. So it led to a game one loss, even though
Yeah.
they were still in it, which is a great testament to the team for having overcome these decisions to still be
Or they
alive
could
this
have
year.
put Singer or Lorenzen in the because you think it's only the fourth inning or fifth inning. You want somebody to go a few innings maybe and not use
Yeah,
the bullpen every matchup, and so at least a guy who can go 2 or 3 innings for you easily. And so you maybe go for your second, you kind of piggyback starter at that point.
yeah,
Lorenzen did get into game one, right? And
yeah.
because
After they used
Zerpa and
Zerpa and Fryber,
mhm.
I think, who are kind of specialists anyway. Like they've been used in the past as lefty lefty matchups or righty righty matchups. But then they used them for some reason in this fifth inning, right?
Yeah,
Instead of, in the seventh or eighth inning where you would typically see,
yeah.
a specialist come in. Like a specialist in the fifth inning seems is dumb anyway from any historical baseball logic. It makes zero sense.
I
Especially
think
when you have all these like long relief arms in the pen. Like you have so many options. You've got five different starters in the bullpen that you could use in
mhm.
Bubic, Lynch, Singer, Lawrence, and they have and Marsh too, right? So they have all these guys that they could use in a longer relief scenario. And then if they don't have it, then you just switch to the next one, and you've got two righties,
Yeah.
three lefties. Like you've got options. You've got so many options, or three righties, two lefties from that
Is it
group.
was it
So
because there were too many options that the Royals picked the wrong ones? Was it the abundance of choices that paralyzed Matt Quatraro and caused him to pick maybe the least efficient uh, option? I guess it worked. His decision making, it wasn't that much different in game two, but it worked better in game two than it did in game one. He still had like Urseg pitch a 2 inning save basically. It'll be
yeah,
interesting to see what happens in game three because game four is one day. It's not. There's no in between. day between games 3 and game 4. It's going to be um, Wednesday for game 3 and Thursday for game 4. So that'll be interesting to see what they will do without this idea. Oh, we have an abundance. Everybody can pitch tonight, and everybody can also get a day off and pitch again in 2 days' time. So
So have they said who's going to pitch game four? I assume it's back to Waka. Is that
I
have
think
they said
Walk
that
if you look on ESPN, Walk is listed as the starter.
as the projected starter?
Starter, yeah.
That makes, I mean, that it doesn't actually make sense, but it makes royal sense, I think. So that's
Hmm.
I don't think he's the best choice to go to start a game, but he has been better later in the season than he was at least at the very beginning of the year.
He has playoff baseball experience at least.
Yeah,
He is, a he was solid all year. And as a number 3 or 4 guy, he's pretty good as so in the idea maybe if the Royals make it to um if they can win in 4 games, that means that we'll have Ragans. You can start the new series with Ragans and Lugo as games 1 and 2 starter, and
yeah.
then go from there for the rest of the series. So if the Royals can sweep the home stand, that would be the case. Or worst case scenario, you have Ragans pitching in game 5,
Yeah.
and um, although it seems like maybe Ragans' endurance is maybe because he's been a reliever so much and he hasn't pitched a whole season as a starter, his endurance is a little bit uh, in question right now. So you hope that he
He's
has
been
enough to get through 4 or 5 innings against the Yankees if he does pitch a game 5.
he's been dealing with some cramping issues with his lower legs, I guess. So
Yeah, I would guess it's almost just the usage issue by this point
mm,
because he hasn't because he was a reliever most of his career and he was only a starter like in the second half of the season last year and with the Royals once that trade came through, and so this is
yeah.
his first full season as a starter from day one. And
And I think he made all of his starts for the season. So yeah, his total inning count is much higher this season than it has been the last several years. He was a starter in the minors, and
oh,
then
okay.
he was only converted to a reliever in the in Texas's bullpen when they had that all-star lineup of pitchers when they brought in people
Sure,
from
sir.
outside
Yeah.
the organization, and then so the organizational guys got sort of like relegated to backup roles, and so yeah, so Reagan's got pushed into the pen, and then he became fully available to the Royals for the trade because he'd had a couple of bad appearances, um, and was looking at being sent down to the minors, I think. So the Royals got a steal out of him in that Texas didn't have any place for him. So that was great for the Royals, but I mean
Yeah,
he has been a starter in the past, but
yeah.
but
Reagan's yeah.
his major league innings have not been anywhere close to the number of innings he
Yeah.
has
He
thrown
pitched
this season.
186.3 innings, which was seventh most in the AL, I think.
I don't think he'd thrown more than 100 innings. I think in his season at the major league level, but it only been 2 seasons. I think he'd been at the majors before.
Yeah,
Well, the
Lugo was
Royals,
number 2 with 206 innings pitched.
and he
So
was a reliever for a lot of his career.
yeah, he's been a
So
starter for longer
his
than
innings pitched have been much higher than he's got. Also,
yeah. Yeah, Lugo. This is he has last year was his highest innings pitched in his career. That was 146 and a
yeah,
third for the Padres, and now he was 200. So he's 60 more innings than his. Uh, Although 146 was 45 innings higher than Lugo's highest ever before. So
yeah,
he's been stretched out these last couple of years. It seems like he hasn't been tiring though down the stretch. He's had a solid ERA the whole time. It's kind of maybe gone up a little bit as time has gone on, but
yeah.
that was probably because he was a little bit lucky earlier in the season and kind of uh, just the law of averages catches up to him. But
I don't think he throws quite as hard either. Like Reagan's, I think because he touches up around 100, so like it may
Yeah.
be that that may wear on an arm slightly more than
Yeah.
only hitting like the mid 90s.
Yeah, you wonder how many pitches Reagan's throws compared to Lugo in those innings. Like, and you think Reagan's has thrown more pitches than Lugo because he's a strikeout pitcher?
I would assume, yep, yeah, Lugo's a little more pitch to contact.
Well, Lugo had 181 strikeouts this year. That's quite a few.
Yeah,
But Reagan's at 223.
yeah.
Reagan's maybe missed one start. He had 32 starts. Lugo had 33 starts over the season. But
I think that may have just been how they worked them back in after
the All-Star break or
the
something.
All-Star break because I think they've ended up. I think Reagan's may have like sort of not lost a start, but like missed one of his what would have been a start. I think in that time frame.
Hmm.
And does it tell? I think it tells you in baseball reference like how many. I think you can say how many actual pitches were thrown even, but that may be something like well you can look up off the air another time.
Yeah.
But
Um, yeah, but so well, the Royals are doing well. Should you want to switch over to the Chiefs and talk about their game against the Saints? Well, they won that game 26 to 13. Like we had said, though, it seems like they left a lot of points on the board, or they didn't take advantage of a lot of their opportunities. This included, one of those classic Patrick Mahomes deflected off a receiver interceptions that he seems like he's become known for since Tyreek Hill was around a couple of years ago, and then of course the Kadarius Toney years. Uh,
right.
so so Mahomes ended up throwing for more than 300 yards, but didn't have any touchdown passes. I think he has more interceptions now in the season than he does touchdowns, or at least even. Um,
That's crazy.
yeah, this was by far Mahomes' best game, I think, of the season.
Yeah.
Since he didn't have any like bad interceptions. This one was just a fluky
Yeah, the
one.
interception was not at all his fault. Yeah. Some of his previous interceptions were definitely his fault,
Yeah,
but this one wasn't.
say like 75% of his other ones were just him not paying attention or throwing it being a bad
Didn't
throw or something.
didn't see that guy and
Yeah.
yeah, was trying to throw it away, but it ended up going right to somebody.
Yeah, so Rasheed Rice has been out now with his what turns out to be his LCL injury. He had that surgery today on his LCL, and so he's going to be out the rest of the season most likely. But so they're without Hollywood Brown, they're without Isaiah Pacheco, they're without um, Rice. So they kind of went to their classic players. They had brought back Kareem Hunt. Uh, they brought back at the beginning of this year as well. They brought back um, Juju Smith-Schuster, who had a big game, other than his deflection that turned to a touchdown for
Yeah.
another former Chief, uh, Colin Saunders. Um, but Travis Kelce had a big game. Uh, it was a kind of, Nicole Hardman had some, you know, plays here and there.
Jody Fortson had a catch.
Cody Fortson came back. Yeah, he's back with the Chiefs now. They ran, I think, a four tight end set with Fortson and Gray and Wiley and Kelsey.
Yeah. And they even had a direct snap to Kelsey where it turned into a handoff.
Xavier
Worthy
Worthy, and
became a touchdown. That was pretty cool.
yeah, Worthy had a decent game. So it seems like he's he's been worked into the offense a little bit more. But it seems like yeah, I was surprised how well Juju did. It was like 2 years ago for Smith-Schuster because it seemed like he was washed up last year with the Patriots, but maybe
Hmm.
the Patriots didn't know how to use him, and
Yeah.
if Juju's kind of like another in some ways, Rasheed Rice was becoming a little like another Kelsey just finding open spots, and this is what Juju did last last
Well,
night.
well, what we'd hope that we'd see from Hollywood Brown too, because that's kind of one of his things too, is finding
Yeah,
open spots and keeping the play alive, sort of things. And
yeah,
yeah, so yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster had that one 50-yard reception where
catch
he
and run. Yeah,
kind of gotten lost, and his defender fell down. He got wide open, and then had, I mean, what, 25, 30 yards of space, just an open field running, which was nice to see. You don't usually see somebody being that alone.
no, it reminded me a
No,
little bit of the San Francisco game 2 years ago when Juju had a couple of big receptions like that and had some big touchdown runs from the middle of the field that were kind of medium passes that turned into really long passes. So it was nice to see him back. It's been nice to see Kelsey back these past couple of games, kind of in his old self. He hasn't had any big plays or touchdowns, but he's gotten a lot of receptions and looks. So
yeah. I think he ended up with 9 catches, I think, on the day.
70 yards or something like that. So not a huge number of yards, but a lot of catches, big first downs he made. And yeah, so are the Chiefs better, do you think, with limited options at receiver? Does that force Mahomes to pay more attention and to not just throw the ball up and hope his guys go get it? Or is this just um, I don't know, or the Chiefs maybe is their luck going to run out one of these days with their limited options?
I don't know that he really has limited options. He still has what, four tight ends to throw to, and a couple of wide receivers. He didn't use like Watson like at all
Yeah, I don't remember Watson having
last game.
maybe he had one catch,
Um,
but I don't remember. Yeah, Sky Moore
yeah,
not helpful. Uh,
and he dropped another, what was it, a kickoff return or something
kickoff
too, right?
return.
Where like
Yeah.
got a little sketchy there for a second. But and it didn't show up in the stat sheet, but Worthy did draw a pass interference
Uh-huh.
penalty that ended up being like 50 yards, which is a huge play for,
Yeah.
and nice to see that, them at least looking for these like long downfield plays. And then, sometimes you can draw a flag on something like that. So it's nice to see them taking some shots because they didn't do
And
much
he
of that
almost did it another
last
time. He
couple of
almost got
games.
two long pass interference
Yeah.
penalties, but
They could have called another one, but they didn't
yeah.
call that
I think
one.
that's probably that's normal though. I think you're not going to
Yeah.
get every pass. You
Sometimes
can't
you know.
you can't gamble on it. Every pass interference is not going to get called. It's just one of those things where sometimes it gets called, sometimes it doesn't. And you kind of have to
Right.
deal with it as being a little bit inconsistent when the part of the on the part of the officials. But
Right.
it's a little like holding, a little like even things like false starts and stuff like that. Sometimes they're more sticklers for getting off early than other times. And it's, Jawan
Yeah.
Taylor. Speaking of that, Jawan Taylor had some more penalties this game. Wanya Morris was out for some of the game, but he came back in. But Kingsley Suamataia, uh, it seems like Morris has become solidified as that left tackle starter. Has that surprised you that Morris has become the guy, or is that just because this is his second year, he has more experience than Suamataia?
It's probably the experience thing more than anything else. Yeah, I think, yeah, Suamataia is likely the guy that they're going to go to for the long term, for the next several years. But it's fine if he has,
And
doesn't,
more,
pick it up immediately. That's okay.
yeah, and Morris might be the right tackle after. I don't know if Taylor's going to last another year or two, given his penalty proclivity.
Yeah, it seems
But
to be too many penalties. Yeah.
but he has been solid. He doesn't seem to allow. I guess he's been a solid blocker when he is not penalized. But that's something that has been his bugaboo certainly since he's joined the Chiefs. Um,
Well,
the Chiefs,
the offense does seem to be clicking a little bit better the last couple of weeks. They've scored a few more points. They're not quite, there for the like actually scoring the touchdowns. They've been settling
yeah,
for a lot of field
the red zone
goals.
efficiency's been lackluster.
Yeah. But they've been able to like have like long drives. They just haven't resulted in, the highest point totals you can score at football, right? So
Yeah,
settling
yeah.
for field goals, and I know that's been one of your sticking points the last several years with the Chiefs. So is settling for field goals and then not hitting those overs, though. That's what you're concerned with, is the
I
overs.
well, I did go with the under this game for the Chiefs, and they
I mean,
stayed
that's
under.
in all the games, actually.
I did go with all the games under. Uh, and the defense has been holding the opposing teams to not very many points. I think the Chiefs are only allowing less than 17 points a game, I think, right now. So it's been, really solid defense on the part of Steve Spagnuolo and company. They limited Alvin Kamara, his running ability. Chris Olave didn't have much of a game either. Rashid
Mm,
Shaheed had that big touchdown that Brian Cook got turned around on, but that was about the only big play that was allowed. Uh, they had that momentum kind of touchdown after the Colin Saunders interception, but
yeah.
going to be too little, too late. They were behind far enough. It didn't really matter at that point. Uh, but yeah, it was the defense played another kind of masterful game against Clint Kubiak in his kinetic offense for the Saints that had been through 2 weeks been scoring I think an average of 40 something points a game, and now they've come back to earth. That uh, so but even though I guess of the KK offensive coordinators, Cliff Kingsbury has been able to uh, have more success for a longer term now than Clint Kubiak. Should we talk about those other games and our
Sure.
bets? This is our of our locks of the week. This has been by far our best week, where we finished, I believe, 4-2 together. Our
That's
locks of
right.
so this is the first time that we haven't had a losing record on the locks of the week, and neither of us had a losing record. We were each 2-1. Why don't
Yeah.
we? You want to gloat over some of our big victories this week?
Or do we get the losses out of the way first?
You want to get the losses out of the way first? Yeah.
Then
Um,
we can gloat. Let's do that
okay.
first. Then we can gloat.
Okay. Well, my lone loss of my locks was I had the Rams plus 3.5 at home against Green Bay. They played a tough game against Green Bay. They lost 24-19, so they lost by 5. So it was a close game. They were in it at the end, but they went for fourth down in Green Bay territory. Had they not been behind, they could have kicked a field goal and covered the spread. But they decided not to do that. They went for it on fourth down and didn't make it. So Green Bay ended up winning that game 24-19. So I was 1.5 or 1.51 points away from uh, covering.
You were hoping that they were going to just kick the field goal just to cover the spread, not even, but they did make the football decision to go for the win, which is
Yeah, I guess
the
they could have.
right thing to do, but not the right thing to do for the betters, though,
No, they
right?
could have kicked a field goal and then tried to get an onside kick and then be able to kick another field goal to win. But they decided not to do that,
There was
unfortunately.
enough time for that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because I think Green Bay had another minute or two to run out the clock, so they
yeah.
could have kicked a field goal and then gone for the onside kick. But I don't know any teams that would have done that that weren't probably controlled by gambling interests. So
A
um,
Vegas team might have done that
the Raiders,
if
I don't think the
if the
Ra
Raiders weren't such a holding themselves to such a high standard, right?
if the Raiders weren't such a hot mess at this point, maybe they would have done that. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was my loss of the week on my locks. How about your lock loss of the week?
My lock loss was not nearly as close as your lock loss was. I had the Baltimore and Cincinnati under at 50 and a half, which is a lofty
That's a high point
line
total.
anyway. So that didn't matter though. I think they crossed that somewhere around halftime. It was I think they scored approximately 700 points in that game. Not even anywhere close to the
41 to
line.
38, 79 points were scored.
So having the under, yeah, that was a one I had to just write off like fairly early in that one and just take that loss and move on.
Yeah, it was a big loss for you, but it was probably a bigger loss even for Cincinnati since they had a chance to win that game in overtime, but they had that botched snap on the field goal attempt.
Yeah.
Although he get it up just in time for the kick, so maybe um, McPherson could have kicked the better kick, but there was a similar happening with the Chiefs on one of their field goals when Ariza uh, kind of bobbled the snap and um, but but Butker managed to kick the ball through, but he did miss a field goal another time. He missed a 51-yard field goal that doinked off the upright. But um, back to Cincinnati. Yeah, that was they're 1-4 now. They might be on the outside of the playoffs looking in unless they can really turn it around quickly in the middle of the season.
Yeah, their division isn't like doesn't have like a world beater in it though. So
Yeah, unless maybe the Ravens have turned into can turn into that. But yeah,
yeah.
Pittsburgh's 3-2, the Ravens are 3-2, and I guess the Browns are 1-4 with the. So they're only I guess there's technically only 2 games back from the division lead.
Yeah, it's not ridiculous for them to still be considered in it anyway. If there was like a 5-0 team in the division, then you might think, that's not
Mhm.
maybe they're not going to be able to compete this year, but they'll probably still be in it. They have an easier game coming up this week, I think, so they may still have time to right the ship.
Yeah, they play
Giants this
the
week.
Giants. Although the Giants have been a little frisky lately. They beat the Seahawks. I think they're 2-3 now. They've had some close games. So, would you have guessed that the Giants were not the first New York team to fire the coach in the middle of the season? Would you have ever guessed that Robert Saleh would be fired before Brian Daboll?
No, no, no. I wouldn't have thought he was on the hot seat really, especially with Aaron Rodgers just coming back, and you can't
Yeah.
really expect the Jets to be like 5-0 to start the year. It's still a team that hasn't really played together with their quarterback. So and they didn't play in the preseason, so it's not like they had any time to really gel as a team outside of practice. So that doesn't really count, though. I don't think.
You think this was an
Um,
Aaron Rodgers led coup that overthrew Saleh? He went to the owner and wanted Saleh gone because you think probably the person you'd want to get rid of would be Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, who is terrible. But he is Aaron Rodgers' friend, so therefore he has been protected, and maybe Saleh got in the way of that friendship. So I don't know. I see this as a Aaron Rodgers led um, firing because remember those there were seen on the sidelines with Rodgers and Saleh not really getting along very well
yeah,
for situations like that. I don't think Rodgers liked Saleh, and so I think that's excuse me. I think that's maybe the reason that Saleh was gone. But it's strange that happened after week 5. Like
yeah,
they're only 2-3. It's not like they're completely out of it, but
yeah. And it wasn't like a terrible loss either. Like it wasn't.
Mhm.
They didn't get like destroyed. It was a close game against a team that is 5-0. It's Minnesota, right? So
Yeah, it was against Minnesota. I think the fact that they lost to Denver, maybe they didn't like, but now Denver's 3-2, so Denver is not maybe. I don't think they're as good as 3-2, but they you play who you play, but it's a I was kind of shocked when I saw that Saleh got fired today. That was really surprising.
yeah, yeah. I'm surprised, especially with the and the last game being was Minnesota. It's a 5-0 team. It's not
Yeah.
it's not like they got destroyed by a terrible team or like somebody that's like expected to be like the worst team in the league. They got blown out or something. It's not. I
It
mean,
was
that
a
wasn't what
relatively
happened at
close
all.
game, and it
Yeah,
wasn't because. And also, you think of Saleh as being a defensive guy, and now
yeah.
the defensive coordinator is the new uh, um, interim coach,
Which I
Jeff
mean, I don't
Jeff
understand either
Goldberg.
though. Like if you're upset with the team and it's because it's like too defensive oriented, then why did you fire the defensive coach then replace him with a defensive coach? Like that doesn't.
I don't know. Yeah, it's.
That doesn't really make sense either,
I think
unless they just
because you
didn't
can't
want.
have Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach, and
Seems like that may be the
that would
case.
be seen as too obvious a kind of coup. But also because Nathaniel Hackett has proven he's a terrible, terrible, terrible head coach already, and that he probably
Yeah.
shouldn't be let anywhere near. He's not even a good offensive coordinator, so he's probably shouldn't be let anywhere near the reins of as a head coach. So that would be, I don't know. It seems like the Jets ownership just um, decided to kind of go rogue. Woody Johnson is his name, uh, the Jets owner, which
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is a
it doesn't seem like it's well thought out, so I don't know what's going on there. But
this is
it doesn't really make sense as to how you would, handle the franchise just in general. But
maybe Jeff
um,
Saturday will be appointed as the interim
that's what
coach.
you'd think if you don't like the direction of the team at all, that you'd have to bring someone in from outside. But then they fired him, during the season, so it's hard to replace someone during the year and actually see a result from it, being positive. Like, it may take weeks to like sort out, a new strategy to even see them like recover from that. So it's very strange. It almost seems like they were like writing off the year after week 5. It seems too early anyway. I mean, unless they just have like some kind of internal, headbutting with Salah and somebody, whether it's, up above him or Aaron Rodgers. We don't know, right?
I think it's yeah. I think there's an Aaron Rodgers component to it. Maybe that we got a little sidetracked talking about our bets, but I think that was an interesting, maybe the most interesting development in the aftermath of week 5. Um, but we also have we want to talk about our victorious bets. I had two under bets that turned out to be good ones. We had Minnesota, I mean not Minnesota, Miami against New England, a game that was 15-10, Miami winning 15-10. That was an under 35 and a half that I had. So that was 10 and a half points under. Only 25 points were scored in that game. So I thought that was an easy under. I thought of Miami's offense without Tua has been pretty hapless, and New England's offense has been pretty moribund as well. So New England is now going to try Drake May instead of Jacoby Brissett as their new quarterback starting next week, it seems. So maybe New England will score more points, or maybe it'll continue its low scoring ways going forward. But yeah, Miami, New England. I didn't think either team had much of an offense, so the under was a good bet there. Even though it was a very low point total, I thought the under was a good play, and it turned out to be.
And it is Tyler Huntley is playing for Miami.
Yeah,
Huntley against Brissett, not the typical Miami New England matchup from the last several years that you'd expect to hear um,
no,
as the captains of these two teams.
no, Huntley and Brissett. Yes.
Yeah, and I think like Achan ended up getting hurt during that game too and was out for the most of it. He only had like 3 rushes, I think, in the game. So yeah, that doesn't help when an already weakened team is losing players to injury during the game too.
Yeah.
And New England did have a touchdown taken off the board at the end. It looked like New England had scored, but it was another one of those, heel toe in the end zone.
Yeah.
Did you see that play?
No, yeah, yeah, I did see a little bit of it. I thought maybe that was, I don't know, that was a kind of a raw deal, but still, that even had they scored, it would have been comfortably under. So,
Yeah, but it was
uh,
one foot was down and then the toe was down, but the heel came down out of bounds, and that's enough apparently to rule
yeah, like if he
a
had stayed on,
touchdown in incomplete pass
because I
instead.
guess the toe and the heel are not considered to be separate parts of
But
the
you only
foot.
need to have a toe down because you can
Yeah,
do the toe tap on the sideline. You don't have to put your heels down there. So why would it matter in the end zone? That's what I don't understand. Because you
yeah.
catch the ball like at the sideline with just the toes down. You don't have
Hmm.
to put your heels down
I
in the
guess it's the,
ground to
I
be
guess it's
considered a
the,
catch on the
I guess it's the
sideline.
direction you're going, somehow. I don't
Why does
know.
that matter? It's like whatever touches first.
Yeah.
if the whole foot came down, and it's like, well, then
Well,
the whole foot is active, right?
I think the Chiefs would have lost their first game had that because I think the heel came down before the toe, didn't it, on Isaiah Likely's
I think
uh
the whole foot just came down, and the toe was out of bounds. So
okay. I thought maybe the heel came down first and then the toe came down.
it didn't look like that type of
Okay.
play anyway.
Okay.
So
Okay. But yeah, I guess it makes sense why it didn't count, but you could also argue that maybe it
in
should
the
have.
Chiefs game, but in the other one, I don't get.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was under well under. How
But
about you?
even if that touchdown had counted, it still would have been under. That's how much room you had,
Yeah.
though, in
I had
inside your bet that had that touchdown been counted as it probably should have been, it would not have
would.
affected your bet. It
It
would
was
on
tough.
the big board. It would have given me a few extra dollars because I had uh, New England winning that one. So
I think I had.
that's why it irked me that way. Was because they,
I also
maybe
had
for
New
betting
England. I
purposes.
also had New
See?
England winning that one, so I would have won a little bit more money too.
Yeah.
But
So we should be mad about this together about
I
the
suppose
your lock still would have been
my lock
correct
still would
either
have been
way.
fine. Yeah,
So
I
that's
guess I should be as irked as you are. What result? Tell me what your one of your wins though, a result that did not irk you this past week.
my first win was in the Washington Cleveland game. I had Washington covering the 3-point spread at home against Cleveland. That was an easy cover. Washington ended up winning 34-13. And their quarterback seems to be having quite a good season so far, Mike. Are you impressed with the play of the not number one quarterback picked in this year's draft,
Yeah, Jaden
Jake
Daniels
Daniels?
has really been really good. Although I guess you could say Caleb Williams had a pretty good last game. This past week, this is probably his best game this past week. So
Yeah,
he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable.
it was
Um,
against a much weaker opponent, though, in Carolina. So
yeah, I was
that's
against Carolina.
a
Uh,
little more expected, I think.
a
But
Carolina team that apparently is going back to Bryce Young, I've heard as well. Were you aware of that?
only just now by looking at the box score, it looks like Dalton Stark didn't do so well, and Bryce Young played a little better in relief. He was 4-7, 58 yards. That's a much improved over his early season numbers.
Mhm.
But with Jaden Daniels, though, completion percentage wasn't great in the last game, 14 of 25, but 238 yards is not so bad.
I think he's not going to, you couldn't sustain like a 75% completion percentage. I think it was just too much in the NFL. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's been, the number two pick, just like with CJ Stroud last year, has been outperforming the number one pick. And
Hmm.
it's, inside track for rookie of the year. He's the next, you would hope for Washington fans, he's not the next RG3. In fact, because of what happened to RG3, but he's playing at a level like RG3 was that his rookie year, maybe even a better level even in terms of passing. His been dynamic as a runner, but his passing has been very good. And so maybe
He,
this is
he did he did end up with 11 carries in this game for 82 yards. He was the leading rusher and leading passer.
yeah. So Cliff Kingsbury, it seems like he's been able to really um, you know translate his kind of college style offense into the NFL with uh, with Daniels. So yeah, they've been really good, really solid, and Cleveland has been really really bad. So that was a good bet to make. One team really on its way up, the other team is floundering at best.
Yes. And we're okay with that, I think, anyway. And seeing
Yeah, we I don't think either of us
both
want to
those
see
teams
Deshaun
doing what they're
Watson
doing.
Deshaun Watson succeed. So, and now I guess there's not the Daniel Snyder ownership anymore in Washington, so there's not really a villain there anymore either. So we're um, Washington has a big game next week against Baltimore, a Maryland right a state of Maryland backyard brawl type situation. So that'll be interesting to watch, especially me being in Maryland. That'll be a big game.
Or are you going
Uh,
to try to go to the game, Mike?
no, my parents are in town, and I'm actually going to be gone. So I'm gonna be in upstate Pennsylvania somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
um,
you just bring your parents to the game.
well,
That's not.
they could go to the game. I'm actually they're gonna be at my house, but I'm not gonna be with
Oh,
them.
you're not going to be there. I got you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
That makes that
they're
makes
staying for
perfect sense.
they're staying for a week or two, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be with them all the time. Um, but
So like
it
house sitting for you while you're gone.
yeah, it might affect future morning track power hours. We'll see what the broadcast is. I will let you know as this week goes. But um,
Yes.
my have you've done your second your winning
Yes.
one. We want to move on to our third locks, our second victory. Mine was Arizona, San Francisco. The result, the San Francisco losing to Arizona, I believe it was 24 to 23,
Hmm.
was very surprising. But I picked the under 49 and a half, and so it snuck or sneaked under 49 and a half. 2.5 points under. So luckily there wasn't a winning field goal by San Francisco at the end of the game. They had a chance to I think come back and win it, but there were some late game turnovers I think by the 49ers. So
Hmm. One inside the 10-yard line of Arizona. So they
hmm,
looked like they were about to score more points and then did not. And there was a special team score early in the game too. The blocked field goal turned into a touchdown.
yeah,
So usually those kinds of things happen that drives the point totals way
drives
up.
you up. Yeah,
But
yeah, 3 points turns into 7 points, but yeah,
yeah.
this one fortunately stayed under, just under for me. Not as comfortably under as Miami, New England, but under all the same, and it pays just the same as well. So it doesn't matter how far under; it just has to be under. How about your final victory of the week, your lock of the week?
My last pick was on the Monday night game. I actually had the Chiefs at -5 at home against New Orleans. And as we already had discussed, the Chiefs ended up winning that one by 13, easily covering that 5-point spread. So that
Yeah,
put
they
us
left.
both at 2-1 for the week, and
So
finally
we're
looking up, maybe.
4-2. I think I'm now 4-8 on the season. I was, is that, I
We're
believe,
we're at 11.
4-11 on the season. Ooh, I wish I was 4-8 on the season.
Uh,
I guess I was 2-10. I was 2-10 at one point I was 2-10
yeah, you're two and
last week.
seven, and then last week you were 0-3. So I think you're
Oh yeah,
two
okay.
and
Oh wow. So what are you now, Dr.
I'm
Scott?
at 7-8 now. I'm
7-8.
down $100 in a year.
So I'm three behind you, still. Um, And on the big board, you had a winning week. I had a losing week. So you have extended your lead over me. I lost about $650. You won about $350. So I am down now for the season about $1,900. You're only down about $750. So we both have been losing, but maybe where we didn't neither of us had a big disaster this week, fortunately.
I had my disaster last week, so that was the
Yeah, I had my disasters early, and the Chiefs game kind of saved me from a possible disaster in that I got I picked the Chiefs to win, I picked the Chiefs to cover, and I picked the under. So I got all three of those to kind of avoid a potential disaster on the week. So we both did well with the Chiefs, and we were both happy that the Chiefs won for a variety of reasons. But unfortunately, the Chiefs are not playing next week. Oh, well, moving on to week 6 action. Um, we can talk about our locks of the week and whatever we find interesting in week 6. The Chiefs are not playing. There are three other teams with buys in week 6: the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Vikings. So after week 6, we still have two undefeated teams in the league, since both 5-0 teams are uh, on their bye week,
you
which
have
is
exactly two teams with 5-0 records, and they both get the bye in the same week. Is that
That's interesting. Yeah. The
Yeah.
Chiefs in week 7 will play the 49ers, so that will be a challenging game. And I don't know who the Vikings play in week 7, but um,
Mm. That I'm not sure either. Yeah.
are we looking
I
up?
haven't put those into the big board yet, so that's too early to look that far ahead, Mike.
Yes, unfortunately, I will look. The Vikings will play Detroit at Minnesota. So I guess both teams will have a chance. Will have stiff challenges in week 7. We should say, to say the least. But
Yeah.
let's talk about week 6 and the teams that are playing in week 6. What is your first lock of the week, Dr. Scaff?
My first pick is I'm gonna go with an over in this game with Tampa Bay at New Orleans. It's a relatively low over-under number at 41 and a half. I expect to see New Orleans scoring some more points than they did at least against the solid Chiefs defense. Tampa Bay is certainly capable of scoring points at Baker Mayfield. I expect that to be a little higher scoring game, especially than the 41 and a half
Yeah, you
line
think
given by Vegas.
20, it would be higher than, 21 to 20, which would be a 41. So you'd think maybe
I could
20.
see there being a halftime score. I think that one has like the sort of like hallmark of being one of those sort of maybe shootout type games, especially
Mhm.
division rivals.
Although you have maybe with New Orleans, we have an issue with New Orleans that Derek Carr is no longer going to be the starter. He's out for a few weeks with the oblique injury that he suffered against the Chiefs. So it might be Spencer Rattler or it could be Jake Hayner starting for New Orleans. So maybe that is why the number is so low.
But they still have Kamara and some pieces. And Hager
Me,
actually was able to
Olave.
move the ball better than Carr was. And I mean, Carr is more of a gunslinger, so it's like a hit and miss sort of time, as a quarterback. So I kind of expect to see the team maybe play a little more down to earth, a little more solid offensively. They may score more points without Carr, honestly. Do you
Okay.
would you think that, or do you think they'll be like unable to score at all, and Tampa Bay's
I'm
gonna have to
gonna
carry
I'm
this
I'm
one?
gonna go with all unders again next week.
Oh,
I was half and half. I was 7 for 14 this past week.
yeah.
I because of the way the Chiefs turned out. So I'm gonna try my unders across the board. So I'm gonna go under that game, but not because of any particular reason, but simply because I don't want to have to think, and I'm just gonna go under. And I think the unders will carry the day. Uh,
The total points this week was significantly over. Like the average score was about 5 points over the average over under line
mm. That's
which is
because
the highest it was in the season.
you have more room to score over sometimes than you do under.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it makes sense. I
Well,
would.
when you have like the 79-point outburst from Baltimore and Cincinnati, that skews it a
Yeah,
lot further. And
there
then
weren't
in
any three.
Jacksonville, Indy went over 70 also.
Yeah, there weren't any 3-0 games or anything like
Yeah.
that. 15 to 10 was the closest, and that was only 10.
15-10, yeah, that's pretty low.
That was
Actually,
only
10
10.
was the lowest point total of any team.
That's a high number. You'd think for these things. There's like close to you know, there's a team that only will score 7 points, or a team that only will score 3 points every week, or a team
Yeah,
that gets cut out even.
yeah, yeah. Everybody was in double digits this week. Yeah, just Carolina and New England were the only teams. Yeah, under at the low end of the spectrum anyway. New Orleans would have been next, 13. So is Cleveland,
I guess
but
in week 4 we had a 10-9 game between the
yes,
Jets. So that was the lowest
only
was
one single
9.
digit.
There was 1-9 score. In week 3 we had one
There were four
Miami
teams under him.
under 14 under 10. Yeah, Houston only scored 7. Tampa Bay only scored 7. Miami only scored 3. And
It's a two in week two, only one in week one.
okay, yeah,
Huh. This
interesting.
coming week will be, what do you think? More or less than zero? Then I guess one half team under 10 points.
I'm gonna go over because I am going all unders on my bets, and one of my bets this week is
Yeah.
my locks of the week will be Cincinnati against the New York Giants. That over under is 48.5, which I think is pretty high. And it also seems to indicate that they think the Giants will score quite a few points, which I'm not sure they will, even though Cincinnati's defense hasn't been so great. I don't see Cincinnati. I see Cincinnati being able to score a lot, but I don't think the Giants will score a ton against Cincinnati. So um, I think Cincinnati will. This is a must-win game for them. I guess you could say it's a must-win game for the Giants to have any shot at the playoffs, but I don't think they really have a shot at the playoffs. I think Cincinnati's a better team. So I could see this game being something like, 31 to 10 or something like that, or 27 to 14. I think a Cincinnati victory, but I think something that will be under 48.5.
Just as long as it's not super close, like a 25-24. That's the only one you want to avoid there, right?
Yeah, if I pick Cincinnati to cover the spread and have an under, that would be a disaster.
No, yeah, that seems pretty safe, honestly. I like your pick there too, Mike.
Mm. Well, that spells disaster probably, since we're both
Yeah,
we haven't been so great in the season. But well, I hope, or maybe this is finally when great minds will think alike, and 48.5 under. What about your
maybe it only
second?
took us 5 weeks to get in to figure out a little more in the NFL. Now we're
Yeah, that's
maybe starting to be on a roll.
I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah. Speaking of on
Let's
a
hope.
roll, what is your second lock of the week, and of course your second victory of next week going to be?
Second pick, I'm going to the Thursday night game. We got San Francisco playing at Seattle. San Francisco's a 3.5 point favorite on the road. I think they're going to be relatively upset with their last game's performance and will probably be trying to run up the score at least a little bit. Uh, so I've got San Francisco covering the 3.5 point spread.
Yeah, I could see
Oh,
that happening too. I don't think Seattle's very good, really. I think
haven't been playing very well the
they've
last couple weeks.
yeah, they've had some fortunate results early in the season, but I don't think they're a great team. So yeah, and I think San Francisco needs to really have a victory there. They're still missing probably McCaffrey and some other players, but I think you know, and San Francisco seems to have Seattle's number, at least in the last several times they've matched up. So I
Yeah,
could see a comfortable San Francisco victory on the road there. Um, I am going with a game that featured San Francisco's opponent, last week. That's the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are traveling to Green Bay, Wisconsin to face the Packers. I'm going with the under there as well, no surprise. It's 49.5 over under, which I think is pretty high. I don't know. I think Arizona's been playing pretty well, but I don't think they score that many points. And I don't know if Green Bay scores as many points as they've been scoring either. Their offense has been a little bit sputtering lately, it seems like um, with Jordan Love playing.
with
They haven't
love. Yeah,
uh, Ro Romeo Dobbs, I think, has been a little bit disgruntled. Some of the receivers have been. So I could see that as a Green Bay win, maybe, but I could see it as something like a 24-17 type of game under 49.5. So I like the under there in Green Bay. And I guess I don't know if what the weather's going to be like exactly there. But maybe it's about to turn a little bit colder, a little bit wetter as we go. So maybe Green Bay will. Um, this is probably one of the last weeks though that it'll still be very nice up in Green Bay.
should be
But
should be pretty good. Are you surprised that the over/under number is so high? That seems like one that would be like in the low 40s at the
yeah,
highest. I'm shocked
that's
that it's
one
up
reason
near
why it's
50.
my locks of the week, because I think it is placed too high. So
Yeah,
that's why under 49.5. I was a little surprised it was so high. That's why actually I went under. I thought maybe it would be 42, 43, something like that.
and
But
it's one of the highest over/unders in the whole week, even. So it's like the third. Looks like it's the third highest. They got Washington Baltimore's at 52.5, as is the Detroit Dallas game at 52.5.
yeah, those are bound to be higher scoring, I think. I would still lean under on both of those, but I don't have as strong a lean as I would with the uh, Packers Cardinals game.
Yeah, I'm just really shocked that that number is so high. That's yeah. That's what I'm saying.
We both like my first two bets, which is maybe again the kiss of death or a sign that we will turn things around.
One or the other. It can only be the extremes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of extreme, what is your third lock of the week?
That third pick is going against a team that we've been talking about a little bit today, the New York Giants. It's a Sunday night game. Cincinnati is playing in New York. Cincinnati, much like San Francisco, is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. So the second time today, I'm picking a 3.5 point favorite on the road, which I had not planned on doing necessarily, but that's seems to be one of the games that I'm like gravitating to right now.
Three and a
I
half
expect to
points.
see Cincinnati, yeah, taking this one fairly easily, probably running up the score a little bit too, trying to make sure they don't fall to 1-6 on the season.
Or 1 of 5, you mean?
One
Yeah.
five, 1-5. Yeah, sorry.
But
Yes,
yeah, but both your 3.5 favorites on the 3.5 point favorites on the road that you're picking both have losing records right now. So uh,
yes.
which is
But they're
interesting.
playing teams that aren't necessarily very strong. So this is it looks like games that are sort of set up to right the ship, not necessarily like trap games like we saw like in the college football world this last weekend. I think these are just
Yeah.
like games that teams need to use to get right and
Yeah, this
put on the right track.
this is a pretty weak Sunday night matchup, I would say. One of the weaker ones. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who thought. I guess people thought Cincinnati was going to be good. I don't know who thought the Giants were going to be good enough to be on the Sunday Night Football. But I guess they have the New York market, so maybe they get a lot of ratings. But yeah, um,
The schedule makers maybe like all hopeless New York fans. Maybe that's it.
mhm. It's like to be at the Meadowlands or MetLife Stadium. Um, speaking of maybe hopeless matchups. I have my third lock of the week is a divisional matchup between the Chargers and the Broncos. Both of these teams have actually been okay this year. Broncos are 3-2. The Chargers are 2-2. They had their bye last week. The Chargers are actually going to Denver as 3-point underdogs, but they're coming off their bye. I think Denver's been playing over their heads a little bit lately. So I don't. I think that I would pick actually the Chargers to win outright in Denver. I think the Chargers are a better team than the Broncos are, especially coming after their bye. I think Justin Herbert's probably going to be a little bit healthier, and I would pick probably the Chargers to win outright at Denver. But getting 3 points, if I think they're going to win outright, is a good deal. So I'm going to go Chargers +3.
That seems fair too. I mean, even if you gave three extra letters to Bo Nix, he would still have not enough letters in his name. So that's where you're going with this too, right? Is that not what you're
Yeah, the
thinking
too
on?
few letters of Bo Nix is always, that's something that has irked me for the 6 weeks now. I guess we've talked about Bo Nix having too few letters to be a solid NFL quarterback. He's been playing a little bit better each week, but I don't think he's still as he's not in the class of Justin Herbert, that's for sure. And I think Denver is an okay. Maybe they've moved up to being an okay team, but I think the Chargers are a better team at this point. Even with the injuries they've had, I think just because of quarterback play, I think the Chargers are gonna be able to score enough points to take Denver down. I don't see Denver scoring a ton of points either, so that's probably I think I can see that as like a 17-10 Chargers victory, something like that. The over under is 35 and a half. So I'm leaning under there too, but I like the Chargers better as 3-point underdogs. So I'm gonna take Chargers +3 at Denver.
Does it worry you at all that Denver did score 34 points in the last week game? It
It
was against the Raiders, so that's
Yeah,
maybe
they play against the Raiders, and I think they scored a decent number of points against the Buccaneers last game, but I don't, or a couple weeks ago, but I don't see them as a big point scoring team at this point. Uh, so yeah, I think they maybe they should have saved some of those points for this week is how I'm looking at it. So I like the Chargers' chances. Um, and I think it's going to be a low scoring game, a low scoring, tough fought divisional game between two teams with no love lost for one another.
Exactly.
How
Any other games that you're interested in this upcoming week? The Monday night matchup, Buffalo at the Jets. Is that
I think that'll be
something that you're really looking forward to?
without Salah, and you think, well, sometimes you get that, interim coach bounce the Jets might get at home, and that would really take Buffalo down. We've talked about Buffalo. We don't even know, what the situation is with Josh Allen. It seems like he probably had a concussion in that game he against Houston. He was, it seemed like down and maybe motionless for a little while on the turf. I don't think it was just because the wind was knocked out of him either. I think his head hit the ground pretty hard, and he.
He
So
was definitely unconscious.
I'm a little surprised that he got back in the game. But I think that's an interesting game. I think the Detroit Dallas game is interesting. I Dallas is starting to play a little bit better. Detroit is one of those teams that wants to be seen as the cream of the NFC crop, and will, come in and try to take Dallas down. Two silver and blue Thanksgiving hosting teams playing against each other is an interesting matchup. Um, yeah, I don't. I think the Washington Baltimore game we mentioned earlier is also
Hmm.
a pretty exciting matchup. The way Washington's been playing, you kind of really see how good they really are, because Baltimore's a solid team, even if they are only 3-2 so far this year. Um, any other
I think
matchup?
that's the game of the week. Actually, really is that
Washington
matchup.
Baltimore.
Yeah, because you want to see what Jaden Daniels does against a little bit tougher competition. And you've got, it should be one of the most dynamic quarterback matchups you can have in the NFL.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
that's,
a young Lamar Jackson versus maybe Lamar Jackson 2.0 versus Lamar Jackson 1.0. A better
yes.
passing Lamar Jackson is what, Daniels might end up being. So yeah, I think there's a lot of matchups that aren't so attractive. Uh,
No. I mean, there are a lot of division games that are, big deals for the individual teams, but for people that aren't in that division, we don't really care so much, about the Chargers in Denver. Like, I
yeah,
don't really want to watch that, even as an AFC West fan. That's not the matchup I want to watch.
yeah. Pittsburgh
So,
Raiders would be a great matchup in 1975, but
yes,
it's lost a little bit of its luster, I think, in 2024.
sure.
I think trying to find the ugly.
Cleveland, Philly. Is
That
that
was
one?
that's an ugly game.
No.
Um, yeah, I think Atlanta Carolina is going to be an ugly game too, especially with maybe Bryce Young starting again for Carolina, or getting Andy Dalton with a short leash. Um, Actually, that Cincinnati New York Giants game is for Sunday night. What's not what it's That's a below average matchup, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of, well, there's a few really good games, but have also kind of a lot of direct this week. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But each game is, of course, important because it's part of our betting competition, and we will make our bets on all of these games on going forward. And
Maybe you do want to mention though to the Houston New England game. We're going to see Drake May make his debut there too,
May
right? Is
make
he the starter?
yeah, Drake May versus CJ Stroud. So yeah, that game could turn out to be ugly too. So
Yeah, I don't know what to expect in that one at all. I have to think about that one for making the picks.
yes, so
Yeah.
we'll ruminate over the schedule and make our picks going into the weekend, and we will be back next week with the recap of Week 6, and also the recap of the continued Major League Baseball playoffs, where hopefully by next week the Royals will be reigning victorious over the Yankees, and move on to the American League Championship Series against either the Guardians or the Tigers. But that's a topic for next week. Since we're talking about next week already, should we end this week's Warning Track Power Hour, Dr.
I think
Scow?
so.
Well, we thank you as always for your listenership, your viewership, your patronage here at the Warning Track Power Hour, and it's always nice to have you as listeners or as viewers. And as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, which are available on many different podcast delivery systems. Just search for Warning Track Power Hour and you will find us. I guess you've already found us if you are listening to us or watching us already. But maybe if you wanted to switch to be a viewer or to be a listener, you could do so that way. So it's still good to announce that every week as part of our patter, our closing patter. Um, and I don't think we have any more closing patter that we need to go through. I don't want to repeat myself as I sometimes am wont to do, but um, yeah, hopefully this will be an exciting weekend of NFL football. Even though it's without the Chiefs playing, it will be an exciting week of Major League Baseball playoffs, hopefully with the Royals uh, reigning victorious over those Yankees, a reversal of 1776, where the Royals will defeat the Yankees rather than the Yankees defeating the Royals. Um, and
Yes.
so with that in mind, we'll sing "God Save the King" and wish you a good day.